Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
There we go. Hi, welcome to TFYLP, episode 558. We are live tonight. It is Wednesday, December 13th. I'm Lucas. I am joined tonight by Phil.
Sup?
And Anna.
Good evening.
And Peter.
Forever Destron.
There we go. So, thanks guys for joining us tonight, and I apologize for the late switch on topics. We have Florida to blame for this, as always. So, thanks, Florida. So, anyway. But I know everybody's kind of, death sources are slowly trickling in. I think some people haven't even gotten them shipped yet, right? And then there's other people who have, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Phil. We're trying not to rub it in here for other people that haven't gotten theirs yet. So
I'm just gonna reenact Godzilla -1 with Deathsaurus here.
Deathsaurus -1.
Yeah, be like Cybertron -1. Well, no, Deathsaurus -1. Yeah.
Yeah, Ron says FedEx is bad. Is FedEx the worst? Like, do you think if we're, I think UPS is probably the best. Like, to me, is between the post office and FedEx. I'm assuming FedEx is the worst, right?
I mean, FedEx for the fact that you pay a premium for it. I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't know. These guys are all folks that have crazy jobs and deadlines to do.
Oh, 100%.
And yeah, so it's just I don't know who to blame or what to blame. I think it's probably one of those things where they overpromise and underdeliver is the problem.
Well,
America.
And Ron says there, like, I think to me, I feel like it's more the logistics. Like, I don't think that, like, the FedEx driver, that, like, I wouldn't blame him at all. I feel like that, like, UPS can somehow tell me, like, that I'm getting a package between 10 a.m. and noon, like, 5 days out. But somehow FedEx or whatever, like, it's a complete mystery. Like, it could be Saturday, it could be next Friday. Like, who knows? And it's not going to actually tell me accurately. So if I have to sign for a package, like, it'll be whenever we feel like delivering it. So
my assumption with that is the post office, the USPS, just has so much more data that they can reliably say, like, hey, your postal carrier, will likely get this to you by, such and such a time. And they're usually pretty spot on because it's so, like, the same every single day versus the FedEx, which will bring something to your house maybe once a month.
Yeah. Catherine says, just be glad it's not DHL. Like, I guess I've never had an issue with DHL delivering something, but
never.
There's like
never
one DHL like in my entire city. So if like I missed it, like I'd have to drive quite a ways just to go to wherever the hell their station is.
Minimum one package a month from DHL, minimum. And when they say that there's a signature required, they want your signature. They're asking, they're good. I've had zero issues with DHL here at this house and in other places overseas or whatever.
Yeah, the most expensive collectible I ever bought was delivered to DHL, and they safely took it over to Walgreens when I wasn't home, and I was able to get it pretty quickly. It wasn't really a problem.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I feel like UPS and FedEx, like they have the UPS stores and FedEx stores and whatever kind of thing. So it's kind of more convenient. Like if you do miss it, you could probably arrange for the drop off for packages. Probably easier, but I don't know. But yeah, no, I know it's obviously rough for all those guys this time of year. Like we're coming down to crunch time for Christmas, and it's yeah. So, but
So what are
yeah,
we talking about tonight, Lucas?
I don't know.
So what are we talking about tonight?
Well, I don't know. What are we talking about?
Oh, I want
Can
to
I
talk.
throw out an idea? Oh,
Sure.
With all this talk of poor customer service from the various delivering logistics companies, we're talking about it's the logistics of the thing. These are all logistics companies. This is what they do. They get the thing from the place to the next place. So maybe, excuse me, they deserve some layoffs.
oh.
Ugh.
And on that topic,
And you're basing this on what?
shit customer service. But not necessarily, it's you got to have a layoff because there's bad shareholder returns. Can't do those stock buybacks because you're making record profits, or you can, I don't know. There's a number of things we can go. Another number of ways we can go with this. But we have layoffs, 1,100, 20% of the workforce from Hasbro, and they are blaming sluggish toy sales. And I genuinely feel for the individuals who are being and have been laid off. That sucks. We've all been there. Most of us have been there, and it super sucks. But you can't just blame the consumer for sluggish toy sales. There's a lot of things at play. So let's blindly speculate as to what the hell's going on at Hasbro and what comes next. What ripple effects will we get from this news that came out this week?
I think we should, instead of blaming the consumer, we should do like Target does and blame theft and the kind of people that steal stuff from Target. So we should blame them in our shareholder calls instead.
Maybe
you should. I mean, packaging is one thing, but Hasbro's already said it's because of sluggish toy sales. They are indeed, after jacking up the prices. And we all know distribution logistics have been bad for 3 years now. They have blamed the consumer for these layoffs, not us. You.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that's frustrating. I know people. I saw some people mentioning that on in Facebook and whatever in various chats, right? And they're like, "How the hell is it like sluggish toy sales when?" Like there are no toys on the shelf for me to even buy. Like, I want to buy whatever new wave of Transformers or Marvel Legends or, blah, 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 different thing. I can't get it. And then it shows up at Ross or Ollie's or whatever, like however many months later type of thing. But yeah, it's the consumer and the sales. But like, again, did they blame the consumers or is it sluggish sales from Walmart and because ultimately their customers are not us, right? Their customers are Walmart and Target and Amazon and all those types of places, right? So like if it's sluggish sales from there because some guy that's crunching numbers at Walmart or Target or whatever says, oh well, we're going to go into a recession so we don't need as much stuff. Is that the problem?
That is a problem.
It may have been a little bit of foreshadowing that we got so much Ross stuff this year and so much, where else was the other place? Ollie's. Ross and Ollie's stuff, and then the Walmart saran wrap, 2 figures together technique. That might have kind of foreshadowed that, we don't see as much of the sales, but if that's happening, that means that stock's being produced that's being sold at bargain basement prices, 50% off at Walmart and even less at the other retailers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was a huge canary in the coal mine. when you saw the layoffs announced, and it's like, you much. I don't look at all the Hasbro products action figures, but from the action figure side of things, whether it was Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series, GI Joe Classified, Transformers, you name it, they have had stuff get marked down. And so it's going to be anecdotal in terms of, Lucas, you're saying you don't see stuff on your shelves. A lot of other people have said they see their shelves clogged with older stuff. And that's why, you have Walmart maybe not wanting that next wave of the Velocitron stuff to hit in their stores. So they just had it go right to raw, whether it was on Hasbro side or Walmart side, they just sent it off to a discount seller because, Walmart was not going to, they didn't feel like they could put that on their shelves and get sales on that. So, Hasbro said in their call the other day that their entertainment section has taken a big hit. Their toy selling section has taken a hit. And the one thing that really buoyed them this year was all the Wizard of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering stuff. But even they've managed to piss off that community by trying to milk every penny out of it they can.
So Hasbro, they made a big announcement like 5-6 years ago. We're going to transition slowly away from toys and into the entertainment thing, even though they've been producing movies for a decade at that point. Are now saying even their entertainment section isn't working. Maybe stop announcing games that don't come out for the Transformers and the Joe people. I don't know. There was a Switch game I got for one of each 4 years ago. Never played them. I had a point. I forgot it. Oh, I'm going to toot my own horn. It's my least favorite thing to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. You're going to have to bear with me. I guess I was a one-man gang in my city. The only one that was stripping stores of their stock and then moving it out of the county and then returning all of it to force restocks at my stores. I stopped doing that during COVID for reasons. Don't want to die. Fan of self sort of thing. Excuse me. And yeah, I know it's brutal. So once I stopped doing that, nothing moved. We still have Skidses and Primes RCs and whatever else, even after 2 Christmas seasons now, they're still just clogging shelves. What you said, Phil, about things not moving, I don't see new stock hardly ever, but I definitely see nothing moving. But it was hard for me to judge what was moving before because I was the one physically moving it. And I have a tiny hatchback, so moving an entire Walmart's Transformer section from point A to point B, it gets tricky.
Live Tetris.
Well, one thing though is, unfortunately, a lot of these companies are always looking for additional growth, right? And we just came off like, a generational event that, like, I mean, I don't know. I hope to hell that we don't, have another COVID or whatever, that we, go through a similar deal. But like, there was so much pent up demand because one, like, for the longest time they couldn't get the stock to us. Then finally they got it, and people were locked down, whatever. They had extra money, like, at the time, because of a lot of people weren't going out, and so like they were spending their disposable income on collectibles and such, right? So like it was just kind of like a crazy one-time event, and I'm sure that probably skewed a lot of Hasbro's like forecasts and things like that. They probably had no idea what to do with all of that. But I wonder with the amount with the amount of like just things that have been produced over the last like few years, like, are collectors getting fatigue you know, on certain things where like I just wonder how many people are going, you know what, like I've got enough Marvel Legends, I've got, you know, I might, and to where not necessarily that you stop buying it, but that you're like a lot more picky about stuff. And the same thing with some of the Transformers as well, or whatever it may be, that you start slowing down. I know Catherine kind of mentioned that in the chat, that, you know, just buying a lot less. Like, do you guys see that yourself, or do you think that that's not necessarily the case?
It's hard to get excited about things like Breaker or the other DK guys. You notice that Generation Selects has slowed down a lot. There's probably a reason for that. I don't want to call it fatigue because we're in bubbles, and we're in little conversational bubbles here and on Messenger and on Twitter or wherever else we all hang out. So we all get hyped about the big dumb new thing, but I don't think everyone does.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think another addition to the sales, Lucas, that we saw during the pandemic was because of the fact that you had supply chain issues, you had things not showing up in stores, you had people who had extra free time, and people who needed to make an extra buck because they might have lost their jobs during COVID. Is you had the scalpers, prospectors, resellers, whatever you want to call them. You had those folks coming out in droves, thinking that this was a way to make a quick buck. And then what you had was these toy companies seeing this demand, thinking the demand was somewhat permanent or somewhat real.
Genuine,
when in fact, it was overinflated. So you had a little bit of a bubble created here. And so now what you've got is Hasbro made a lot of product this year that they are trying to part ways with very quickly. One of the things that struck me as interesting this year too was not only how much stuff we've seen go on clearance, but sometimes like at stores like Target, how quickly toys went on clearance. I collect Marvel Legends, and there was an X-Men wave that came out over the summer. And I think it was on shelves for a month before it started to hit clearance end caps at Target. A really good White Queen figure in there. Corsair, who had never had a Marvel Legends before. These some Generation X characters that had never had Marvel Legends before. So these were not nothing or nobody kind of characters, but they weren't Iron Man. They weren't tied to a new Avengers movie that was driving people into the theaters. So you had, it was a decent line. I'm rambling, I apologize. It was a decent line, and it was shocking how quickly it went on clearance. Some of the recent G.I. Joe waves, I've seen the same thing with Classified. That, again, just kind of another canary in the coal mine of something being off in terms of Target feeling they needed to move that product quickly to get room for new stuff that was probably going to hit the shelves, and Hasbro just overestimating the demand and producing, whether it's too many units of a certain item or just producing too many items.
The death scene, Ironhide and Prowl was such a quick turnaround, right? Yeah. We started seeing that in the store, and like in the time that it took us to have a conversation about it, people were like, "Ooh, I found it for $18."
Yep.
It was wow.
Sudden and precipitous, just. But I see it with
plummeted.
Mattel has the same issue. McFarlane has the same issue with their Batman stuff. It's ubiquitous. It's the whole aisle, or the whole action figure section. I don't know about dolls or that sort of stuff because we don't dolls, but I definitely know in the action figure section there's it's scary and weird.
Well, and I don't know. I'm just curious too, because I feel like for the longest time that the aging of like kids or whatever buying toys, my 9-year-old and 12-year-old both, on their Christmas list, they don't have a lot of toys on there, it's more video game stuff and things like that. And so I just wonder, it's like if a 9-year-old is like, nah, I'm done, I'm good with toys, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of tough. And so that's where I kind of feel like that they hit a little bit of that lull with some of the kids, but then they discovered like, oh, hey, we have all these collectors. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those collectors are, between their 20s, like in teens too, like kids, the high school age kids all the way up through, people in their 40s and their 50s, whatever. And but I am curious of that market in general. That you obviously have your people that have been collectors for a really long time and want to continue to be collectors. But I'm just curious, some of those casual collectors, maybe it's one of those things where they kind of were doing it for a while and getting a lot of stuff, and then they're like, like, or that they just, people don't have as much disposable income as they had before, because groceries are cost 3 times as much as they did a few years ago. Like, that's probably another thing too, is that before you're like, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and throw a couple toys in my shopping cart or whatever, but now you're just like, no, man, I'm tapped out already.
I think it's a combo platter of a lot of the things that you said. You brought up a lot of good points. Groceries being, inflation just in general being what it is, kids not wanting to, like, I have a 15-year-old that his Christmas list is physical media, because no one trusts, we don't in our family, no one trusts companies to honor their, hey, you bought this, it's yours, for movies and music and whatnot, and toys. But he's brain damaged. He's had some really bad training. He wants to have toys. Sounds like a personal problem.
I blame his parents.
Yeah, probably. I had a point. It's floating away. It floated away.
I do think it is interesting, Lucas, to talk about what you're talking about, and Peter, to combine both your points. I do think you have a younger demographic that is interested in collectibles and toys than when we like once we hit our 20s, like you could tell, like our peer group, and not even our 20s, once we hit like our teens, our peer group like didn't care for this anymore. We were the oddballs. We were the exceptions. There was like one of us or two of us per school that were still into this sort of thing.
We were ostracized. It was party.
Right. And nowadays you have so many more people that are into anime. Anime is so mainstream these days. You have so much of this, pop culture, collectible genre stuff, whatever you want to label it, is very mainstream. And these people do want like a figurine or something for the product that they like. The problem is, though, is that they don't want 20 Optimus Primes. They're good with one. And that's where things, I think, the oversaturation starts to creep in more.
You have your hand raised, Peter.
I do. I have my hand raised.
Okay.
How do I? Something's doing something.
Okay.
It's all echoey now. Media. How do you push Spinister or Prime RC or whoever when there's no media to support these characters? How's anyone going to care who Bulkhead is when Bulkhead hasn't been in a cartoon in who knows how long?
That's what I was thinking, because like the anime, right? Anime stuff has built-in collecting. There are companies that like Good Smile and other companies that will produce toys for every popular anime. And it's just like, you get really into something that's popular, you can get a couple toys from it. And it's always coming. It's always new. When you're a new anime fan, in your first job, from the older anime fans around you that you'll be able to get a few figure lines, and that's just kind of guaranteed for you. And that is so much more interesting to them than, like you said, this needle nose guy who hit the shelves this year and was really cool to us. But who the hell was he to someone who is, blowing their money for the first time in their early 20s after having a good job, right? Like, that's not going to be interesting to them when they can buy the newest One Piece villain, and they're watching that right now. So it makes so much more sense for them to go for that. So yeah, I do think that, the kind of bummer is that we are marketing to us was a good idea in a way, but also a very bad idea. Like, I'm really surprised we don't have a new version of Transformers Collectors Club or something like that, right? Like, I feel like Hasbro Pulse is kind of like that, having something that attracts us to it specifically and saying that they'll give us special events and items and stuff that don't happen very often. And HasLabs are kind of like that too, in that they're made specifically to target us. But marketing our toys to Walmart just doesn't work as well, because then they're filling the toys like they used to for Christmas lists, and there's only us out there buying these ancient characters and getting excited for new toys.
Well, I feel like from a toy distribution standpoint and like, or, like increasing demand for toys, I think that the current media model is a problem because like all of the media for like whether it's Star Wars or I guess some of the Marvel stuff. I guess what happened to Peter?
I don't know. He's still.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Okay. But I was gonna say that they've locked all of their like media behind paywalls, right? And I mean this isn't even necessarily even true of Hasbro. I mean this is also true of Disney or whatever, right? Like I think that they're seeing that too, where they created Disney Plus, but then like all their cool stuff is like you have to get Disney Plus, and so it's like, oh, you have to pay however much it is now. I don't remember, but like the same thing. Like I feel like it was a horrible idea to put Earthspark on Paramount Plus, which like who the hell has Paramount Plus? And like so it's one thing if you are like it's a Star Trek or whatever, right? Like the older collector Trekkie guys will pay for it or whatever, right? But it's like, am I really gonna pay for Paramount Plus just to get like the Earthspark or whatever? Or like if I'm like, oh hey, like my kid might want to watch this show or whatever, like I'm not gonna get it just for that, and I'm probably not already gonna have Paramount Plus. And so I think that honestly, like if Hasbro wants to sell more toys, they should put their media on platforms where it's like across the board. And so maybe there's a timed exclusive like with Paramount Plus where it's like 6 months or something, but they need to be putting that up on YouTube or just something that is more available to everyone. And I can tell you from the what was the last show,
Cyberverse.
What's that?
Cyberverse.
Yeah, Cyberverse. Like, I had several people that their kids got into Cyberverse and they were buying toys. Like their dad was like asking me, "Hey, you're the Transformers guy. What would you recommend for some of these Cyberverse figures for my kids to buy?" And because they watched the show and they really liked it or whatever, right? Like no one has mentioned the Earthspark to me at all.
I will say it is on Nickelodeon, but that is still somewhat of a paywall because you have to have cable.
Yeah.
Where and how you see it, I don't know. Like where and when it shows on Nickelodeon, I don't know. I think the media thing this year is a tough thing to talk about because in general, media is trying to figure things out. That's part of the reasons we saw the strikes this year is that, even people who work in media are trying to figure out how to get paid on this. The other thing that, why this year is a weird one to talk about media is we had a movie. We had Rise of the Bests, and it was not the worst. So, you had, I think, a giant glut of those figures showing up at Walmart and not as much Target, much more so Walmart. And so you just, I don't know. I think maybe it was the inflation storyline this year that with inflation being what it was, like, okay, spending the extra money on an action figure just wasn't a top priority for a lot of households, whether you were a household with kids or whether you're a household of collectors. It just wasn't in the cards for 2023, and Hasbro is suffering for it, and therefore they're cutting costs, which means they're cutting employees, they're cutting staff. There are people who will be spending this Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah without employment, and hopefully they got a nice severance, and hopefully they'll be able to start 2024 with a new position really quickly. But at least this time of the holidays is going to feel much, much more uncomfortable for them than it has probably in previous years. Now, it is just such a weird year, especially with the media, because the movie in there, and you had a Dungeons and Dragons movie as well, and that didn't really move the needle for Hasbro or for toys, and in fact that probably hurt them on the toy sales side of things, because those toys weren't moving at all.
They didn't move, and then they hit clearance.
Right.
On the topic of Walmart and Transformers, the Rise of the Beast stuff landed in June, but didn't really start really rolling until September or so, which is the same time the Gen 2 capsule landed. So there was like this glut of nonsense on top of the things that already weren't moving from Earthspark and Studio Series and normal generations or whatever, Legacy. So everything just looked like a big pile of whatever. I don't know. And talking about the paywall thing, I am not one of those go woke, go broke bros mad at Disney for whatever. But a lot of people are outright rejecting new Star Wars, and they're outright rejecting anything Marvel post Endgame or whatever. They're just mad at it because Disney. So those toys, those shows are locked behind a paywall to begin with. They're already being rejected in some corners of popular culture, and the toys that are coming out largely are related to that media. So there's like this whole throwing up of the hands, like I don't want to deal with this sort of stuff. We don't buy those toys. We don't buy those toys because go woke, go broke. I'm mad at Disney for whatever reason. Again, I'm not that guy. I like almost all of the Marvel Disney stuff and almost all of the Marvel Star Wars stuff. Skrulls was kind of but whatever. Yeah. But everything else is pretty
Shooter
good.
McGavin have an interesting ending.
That's true.
Yeah. God dang it. I had a point and I lost it. I do think, my hope is that we are seeing inflation calm down. The Federal Reserve today announced that they are not going to raise interest rates, that they did not raise interest rates today. They will likely, look to start to lower interest rates in 2024. This means that inflation is calming down. We don't always see that right away, especially once a company decides to raise a price on something. It is rare, if ever, that they start to lower that price. But that's on your regular retail goods. The grocery items hopefully will start to cost less. Gas, that's coming down a bit too. So these are all things that hopefully will put more disposable income in people's pockets. At the same time that inflation is cooling off, we still have supremely low unemployment and fairly high wages. Part of the reason we had inflation upticking was because we had increased wages. So if you have people who have less inflation, they have a job. If they lose their job, they can fairly quickly find a new one. Their income is up. These are all good signs for an economy. These are all good signs for having some disposable income to throw at plastic, guys who change from one thing to another, and girls who change from one thing to another. So it's one of those deals that I think we're just sort of we're dealing with the post-pandemic return to normal, and that return to normal is taking several different shapes and forms. But I think we are starting to find what that new normal looks like.
This new normal looks like our Skyquake figures don't have Generation 1 heads, and there's no Machine Wars Starscream repaints, so why should I even buy Transformers anymore? Damn it, Hasbro. Your open packaging has ruined my life, and your closed packaging has ruined my life, and I'm just mad in general. I'm going to flail on Facebook groups and still spend money.
Well, I think that's the point, is that some people aren't spending money, and I've got some other points I want to make on this. So if there's other commentary, Anna and Lucas, you guys want to make on this, please feel free to do so. But I think we're, again, to me, this is finding the new normal. Peter, you made commentary.
Maybe
I
he
just
has
don't really
additional
like
commentary.
guessing. Like I think it's fun and all to guess on, you know, what new toys are coming and what kind of compromises Hasbro is going to make, and are they going to repaint one thing as something they shouldn't make it into, and that kind of stuff. Like, that's fun and amusing. But I don't know, guessing around with things like people's jobs and the health of a business and those sorts of things just isn't as fun for me. Like, I know that it is kind of, it's interesting from a topic perspective, but I just don't have as much to say. Blind speculation is fun when it's harmless. And I think that it's a little, I don't know, I just don't feel it's as harmless to make blind speculation about people's jobs.
And I'm not trying to do that. And I apologize if I'm coming off as cold. Where I'm coming from this is I work in the financial industry. It is part
Right.
of my job to talk about finances and companies, earnings and all of that in a cold manner. I mean, it is not fun for anyone to lose their job in any environment. I have been laid off. It stinks. It is an atrocious feeling. But I also know people who've been laid off and had to spend a year plus looking for a new job. And I know people who've been laid off and made more money than they ever did in a single year because they got their severance. And then a month later, they got their new job, and their 6-month severance that they got plus their income from the new job, which was higher than the income from the previous job. They're like, oh crap, I'm in a new tax bracket this year. I really hope that is the outcome for a lot of these folks.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you're trying to look at the bright side of it. Hopefully there is one for those folks.
Catherine mentioned, she said the golden age has officially ended. And, I wouldn't say that we I don't know. I wouldn't even call this the golden age. I feel like the golden age was the original G1, right? Like, I almost feel
golden
like
age was...
Silver Age was the 2007 movie, right? And then, I don't know, what is this, like the Bronze Age kind of deal? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is kind of like another wave. Like, so I feel like it just kind of goes, ebbs and flows with a lot of this stuff. And I think, like you said, that, companies are trying to figure out what this new, kind of normal is. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like from specifically a Transformers standpoint, they've literally recently done, a couple years ago, pretty much gave us almost every G1 figure that we wanted, right? And I'm sure that they could probably go back and start redoing combiners and things like that. But, they've kind of branched out a little bit with some of their offerings. And I don't know. I mean, I think with some of the new offerings that they give, it's hard to know what the demand's going to be for that, so maybe the Prime figures do really well, but then the maybe the Armada figures don't, or just whatever, or maybe there's certain Armada figures that do well but other ones don't, kind of thing. And so whereas if you put a G1 Optimus Prime on the shelf, it's going to sell. And so I think that that's the thing is I do feel like they probably have taken more risks recently, and some are hits and some are not.
I guess the way I interpreted Catherine's golden age comment was to say, we're getting toys on the shelves in the main line that we never thought we'd see before. I would say there's somewhat better than G1 in terms of what we're getting right now, because we never got a G1 twin cast. I'm sorry, we never got a G1 twin cast here in the United States. We got a twin cast on the shelves at Targets, at Walmarts here in the United States this year. So yeah, to your point, they were experimenting, Lucas, and we got figures that I don't think we'd ever think we'd see. My prediction is we'll start to go back to more of the Gen Selects model, and that is to the point of earlier saying that the going back to a Transformers Collector Club sort of thing. That's kind of what the Gen Selects was. And we've talked about how we've gotten very few Gen Selects, probably in the last couple of years. And that's probably because you have these capsule waves that have been at Amazon, Target, and Walmart. and that replaced the Gen Selects. And yeah, we'll probably just start getting Gen Selects through Hasbro Pulse again.
And I think it was a better approach anyway, because those both those Amazon waves and like, oh, so the Walmart wave went crazy this time, and that was a messy thing with, you know, the Cosmos and then the G2 figures, and we've had weird stuff with Walmart waves. But like the Amazon stuff, like people reliably, when a new Amazon set comes out, they say, I'm gonna wait for it to be on half price sale, because every Amazon exclusive tends to go on half price sale, except the ones that don't, at random. So people have kind of gone to like rely on that, right? Like I felt silly for paying full price for the snipers, because it was like, I know eventually I'm going to look and they're going to be close to half price. And they were, you know, just a few weeks ago on a very good sell. Yeah. So
But you
I
can't
think
count on
somehow we assumed
You
Nemesis
can't.
was going to go on a big sale, and she hasn't.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot, right? Like we were all speculating, like, oh, I'm gonna wait on the Nemesis and I'm gonna get it for half price. I ain't waited on Tidal Wave, by the way. Like waiting on Nemesis was one thing. Waiting on Tidal Wave would be madness for me, because the Nemesis is cool. It's a new character and whatever, but Tidal Wave is just this like blissful, wonderful looking figure that I want really bad. So
we've done a whole show in the past on the guessing game of what is and what isn't going to go on clearance or show up at Ollie's or show up at one of the Market 6 stores or whatever. And you can play the game, and you can definitely benefit from it, but it's not reliable, which is unfortunate. And there are some figures that you don't want to miss. Who'd you just say? Tidal Wave being one of them.
Yeah.
And like I missed Shockwave completely, and I just don't care. No, I said Shockwave. I meant Nemesis. You know what I mean? I'm thinking Tidal Wave because Shockwave.
Good
I was
Shockwave,
gonna
yeah.
say, how did you miss Shockwaves? He was like in back-to-back. Okay, yeah.
in a while ago.
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still have a feeling that Nemesis will be back next year. And then
Well,
once
Nemesis
it
is still
restocks,
out
it'll
there,
finally
right?
go for
Like, you
sale.
can
Yeah,
find
it's
her
still
for
out
full
there.
price.
There's some retailers who you can pay 200 for. But I have a feeling that, you know, next year around this time, we'll be finding her on sale for, you know, 125 or whatever.
Right.
It could not happen, right? There's been a couple figures that hasn't happened with, but with Titans, it's pretty reliable that eventually they get restocked and then clearance. People are getting that Cybertron Metroplex for half price right now, right? Like, that's gonna be a really cool Christmas gift for a lot of people who waited on that one, because it's a really great toy, and it was worth, you know, the 75% that I didn't pay for it. My husband paid for it, but I guess I paid for it. We share our money. But anyway, doesn't matter. It was worth it, right? But getting it for half price is even better. But I think the whole speculating game on what goes on clearance, that probably isn't really for us, right? That's for the more like, for the collectors who just want Transformers toys. They don't want a specific Transformers toy, but they go into Ross thinking like, it would be really fun to bring it home a couple Transformers for $20 and go home and play with them. You know, they're not like, I'm looking for Cosmos because I don't want to pay the $100 or whatever more that he was selling for on eBay. But instead they're just going for fun, which we don't do, right?
Yeah, we're not here to have fun. We're here to hurt our wallets. Omega Sentinel went on half price for a brief window, the Gen Selects one, and I believe it was Entertainment Earth for Black Friday or Cyber Monday or something, had buy one get two free Black Zerax. And a couple people.
GameStop.
Was it GameStop? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really. You had to be in the right place.
Yeah.
Because it was store pickup only, so you just had to be in whatever region they had them.
GameStop is abnormal because like they'll post those sales and you'll go online and like, nope, it doesn't exist online and it's out of stock everywhere that has a zip code. Today
but it causes
I saw
hype and it forces you to go to the store and go to the site and maybe pick up other stuff.
Yeah. Today Entertainment Earth had Cybertron Metroplex for $90. So it is, yeah, it definitely was a thing that went down. So, I have been a proponent, a very loud proponent on the show of waiting till things go on sale. I like my strategy of tiering things out. What is your A-level toy that you want to pay, you want to make sure you get, so you will pay full retail price for, if not maybe somewhat of a premium. Magmatron, hell yeah, I ordered that thing right away because that looks amazing. Nemesis, I'm waiting on. Tidal Wave's interesting because Titans I tend to want to not pay full retail on. And history has backed me up that I haven't needed to, except for Scorponok. So again, will we see the pendulum swing the other way now, that we'll start seeing toys and lines underproduced, and suddenly we have things that are harder to find, and order numbers cut by production lines cut by Hasbro, order numbers cut by Target and Walmart. So that's certainly something we've seen in the past as well.
Yes.
Phil, did you have other
since
points
we
that you wanted to bring up? Because I remember like 15 minutes ago you said something about like, hey, I have a bunch of points, but like if Anna and Lucas have a point before that.
Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about is something that I been seeing on Facebook groups a lot. Been talking to some of my friends that either have their own toy shops or do a lot of selling on their own, and that is the post-pandemic purge. I need some cash, I need to sell this stuff. Was texting with a buddy tonight who has a toy shop, and he's like, I'm turning people away that are coming in the store with stuff to sell, because it's just like I got enough. I've got plenty. Like, you want to sell me the Marvel Legends wave from like 2 years ago with all the What If characters? Like, no, I got that in spades. I couldn't sell the initial lot I got. Why would I buy yours? Especially not for full retail. If you want me to give you pennies on the dollar, I will. But this is the other side of it now too, that not only is Hasbro purging their glut of surplus, you are seeing collectors who are either out of the game now because the pandemic is over and this isn't as fun for them anymore, or they're having financial issues, whatever you name it.
Were they really
Individuals are
to begin
purging
with?
their collecting.
They
What's
weren't
that?
collectors. They weren't collectors.
What?
They were casuals. They hopped on during the pandemic with their glut of extra money, decided they were going to collect something, and then failed. They couldn't freaking hack it, and they're out. Goodbye. Yeah. The end.
Peter, I really want to see you cut a wrestling promo one day.
I mean, that's what happened though. Yeah, they bought a bunch of things and now they're out. And yeah, there's a secondary market out there too. I've definitely been watching the Facebook groups and stuff and seeing some like deals that I know are happening because of that, right? Like, it's not that toy that I'm seeing for half of its value suddenly dipped in value. It's that there's just so many out there that people feel they need to price it that low, or they're really desperate, right? Like, they're actually in a desperate situation. Maybe they did get laid off and they didn't get a good severance, and they are in the point where, like, yes, I could sit on my $200 figure and make $200, or I could make $100 today and have enough to pay for, dinner or whatever I'm trying to do. So I think that is another bad circumstance. Gosh, it's just such a bummer though. Like, we're thinking of all these bummer topics, right? It's another bad circumstance we can take advantage of.
Well, I mean, there was a cast member tonight who didn't want to be on the show because this is a bit of a bummer topic. And I get
I
it.
said the same thing actually, and here we are.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, to shift gears just a little bit on this stuff, like, did you guys watch the end of year stream that the Transformers team did?
Yes.
They did a Transformers draft. So essentially, they drafted their favorite characters. Like, so they each one, it was Evan, Mark, and BMAC or whatever, and each one of them got like core class, deluxe, Voyager, like leader, large figure, or whatever, and a wild card. I think is what they got. And so I was just curious, like, did you guys get a chance to watch that?
I did, and I kind of feel like it's interesting because they've been paying more attention to the fan communities for years now, right? And I
Right.
think they kind of stole the thunder of all the various podcasts and creators top 10 lists at the end of the year. Because, we all do it. We do it. All the big like reviewers online do it. We want to do our best of the year. I think they kind of jumped on in the, second week in December and said, we're going to do ours. And it's going to be so much more interesting because we're the actual designers.
Right.
I think it was a brilliant strategy because we're going to want to look at that, right? Like, do I really want to watch that guy do his, or do I want to watch Mark tell me what his favorite figures are? Because Mark is a cool creator of Transformers who I'm really growing to like as a fan, right? Or Evan seems authentically interested in Transformers as a franchise. So when I hear his top 10 list, I know it's a person like me talking about toys in the way I do. So I think it was a really smart strategy to get people excited. I think it was a really smart strategy to try to get people to pick up things that they may have skipped. No, I didn't see that strategy in their picks, right? I didn't see them like being like, "Oh yeah, I love clearance straw, and clearance straw is
Right.
my favorite."
Right.
Right? Like it wasn't like
Cybertron
that. They picked things that were,
Metroplex
yeah, they
is
picked
not
things
in
that
their
were hard to get
list.
a hold of. They mentioned things like the G2 Tiger Stripe Grimlock. He's not easy to get anymore. They mentioned the Nemesis that hasn't gone on sale. They mentioned a lot
Tarn.
of things that are, yeah, Tarn's a high resale market value item. They weren't, as best I can tell, they weren't specifically picking things that were on clearance, right? Like Evan wanted to list the core class Dinobots, and those are, people are now struggling, as Phil mentioned a few shows ago, to put together a full set of all six of the core class Dinobots. So,
If anyone's
um,
looking for a Generation 2 Grimlock or the core class Dinobots, I know a guy who knows a guy in Tampa where they have all that junk just sitting on shelves because no one is moving it.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to sell your son's stuff.
He's broke. He doesn't have anything from the last 6 months.
So Anna, I have a contention with what you just said. I think it's
yeah,
still
go for
very
it.
important that people watch our episode when we talk about our top 5 toys of the year, because it's us and we're cooler than them. Joking aside, I did think it was interesting watching that because they came at it from a different perspective. For some of those guys, it was the creative process that they went through to make it that elevated what that toy is. And for us, we don't have that level of attachment to something. This wasn't a project that we
Right.
worked on for months or whatever. We
Right.
weren't staring at a CAD file till 1 a.m. in the morning, or conversing with a Japanese designer to make sure we got the details just right. So that
Right.
was a really fun side of it to watch that. I do recommend watching it for anyone who's got, it's on YouTube,
It's
but
like 30
you don't really
minutes.
need the visual. You can just pop it in your ear and listen like a podcast sort of thing.
Right. Well, yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
fun.
That was kind of fun where they were saying, "Oh yeah, like I really like this one because we were having this big debate with Hatsui-san or whatever." I think
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about Rumble and Frenzy or whatever, right? And the colors
Yep.
with that, and they're like, "Oh, we got in a big fight," and they're like, "Well, a big fight was just an email exchange back and forth." um, but yeah, and the other thing I thought was kind of neat about that is they did it in a draft format, which I don't think most of us have actually done. Most of us are doing kind of a like a top 5 or top 10 or whatever it may be, and they made sure to kind of hit each size class as well, which I think most of the people's like top 10 lists like don't necessarily like hit that either. So I thought it was great. It's fantastic. Is and especially with something where it kind of got them out there doing another stream, even if they aren't necessarily ready to like like I'm sure that they're going to be preparing for Toy Fair or whatever the hell the next thing is, like whatever. And I guess they did technically already have that video, talking about tidal wave, at the which toy fair was that or whatever? Or
Singapore.
I'm sorry, not Shanghai. My apologies.
So.
Yeah, I don't remember if they did a video last year, if the Transformers crew did. I know the Marvel Legends team did, and they did it at the snake draft sort of thing as well. They did it that draft style. So my guess is that's just Hasbro kind of trying to take on that a little bit of a different flair to it than what you're seeing from other podcasts and YouTubers and social media extraordinaires.
It was fun. It was cute. It was a great take, and the team is a lot. They're really enjoyable to watch. They really play well off of each other. They've got great insights, great inputs. I really, really liked it, even though I don't agree with all their picks. But it fully deserves a watch. Everyone or a listen. Everyone should give it a shot.
And there's definitely some hints of what's to come. They didn't specifically say anything, but there was more than a few hints. I forget all the gentlemen's names. Who is the skinnier of the gentlemen, the clean shaven one? Evan basically said like he will fear for his life if Swoop is not made.
I love that running gag. Throughout the stream, they made the running gag about Swoop. It was like, we're definitely done with the Dinobots, right? There's just 4. There's no 5th member. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, you can see that they expected some of the fans to be giving the same look Peter just gave me.
Paddles.
Because they were.
Paddles is the 5th Dinobot. Duh.
Around about not getting to Swoop, but at the same time I think they were actually doing it just to remind us, yes, these have been coming out slowly for years now. Swoop's coming, just not tomorrow. It's okay. Don't sell your leader class Dinobots and go buy Gigasaurs or whatever, because he's coming.
But people are doing that.
I know they are.
The resale value on the Grimlock is insane and has been for over a year now, and people are tired and they're bailing. Facebook groups are just so ugly right now. They're always kind of ugly, but yeah, Swoop is coming, and then they're going to do a red Swoop at some point, probably, maybe in Gen Selects. I don't know. We've already gotten Shattered Glass and Gen 2 Tiger Grimlock. Did we get Gen 2 Blue Grimlock?
No, we haven't got that yet.
But that was mentioned
They mentioned
today.
that in the stream because BMAC was like, I picked G2 Grimlock. And like Mark was like, we didn't release G2 Grimlock. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, do you mean unreleased G2 Grimlock? Why, yes, that was the one we released.
So we know those things are coming.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anyone... Go ahead.
They also hinted heavily at the deluxe Insecticons.
Good.
Yeah, that was another very heavy-handed hint. It was very amusing.
I want Big Red. I want Bulkhead to be retooled into Big Red. I've wanted a Big Red figure for, I don't know, since the mid-'80s. He didn't even have a name then. He was that red guy on the second page. Anyway.
I mean, you never know. I feel like at this point, anything could get released, so...
Gen Selects. Come on, do Monstructor. Actually do it. And yeah, clearance that sucker. Clearance everything for us.
Yeah, I just think that, we were talking about the direction of the company and the direction of Transformers collecting. I think that if they were to go with more content like that gets us excited, right? Like, we watched that knowing that there wouldn't be a toy reveal in there, right? I don't think all of us actually watch the full toy reveal videos when they come out. Like, I often will just kind of click to the ones I care about and then just kind of close it and not listen to a lot of the conversation around it. But content like that that was something I actually took the time to listen to today, right? Like I didn't go, oh, I'll get to it later. I went, oh, this will be fun. I'll just have this on while I'm doing this, that, and the other. I think I was probably messing with Dub Source or whatever. But yeah, it was actually, worth my time. And I think if they put out more content like that, they just keep us excited, right? Like not everyone has like the level of exposure to our collection that we do. And having content to remind them that Transformers collecting is something they enjoy and want to keep doing is a good idea for them to do. I really think so. Because yes, every time I sit in my office, when I'm talking to a student on that screen there, I am facing about 100 toys that I can see in my vision while I'm facing that student. Sometimes I might be making eye contact with Six Shot over there instead of the actual person. They never know because, easier to look at Six Shot than another person who is complaining about grades. But not everyone has that. And I think keeping this content around, not everyone does a podcast every week. Not everyone has multiple group chats about Transformers, right? So the content is really important and cool.
So one thing I'll mention too is that Mark and BMAC did a podcast interview with the Triple Takeover guys.
Who's that?
I don't know, 6 months
Who?
ago. Triple Takeover.
Were they? Are they? What is that? That
Another podcast.
Another podcast, Phil.
There are other podcasts besides ours?
Yeah, apparently there are. Yeah.
Do they talk about baking?
Some of them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you think baking and Transformers could be my new podcast? Do you think I can take off as a content creator?
I mean, yeah, there's a demographic for that.
Make cupcakes that match a certain figure, and then
I mean,
do both.
You could sell the living daylights out of those at TFcon Artist Alley.
I went to a con recently where one table had treats they had made, and they were selling like crazy because there isn't that much food on a convention floor.
No.
And I think that would be if they allowed it at a Transformers convention, have food on the floor, even if it's just like baked goods or cookies or, Autobot shaped cookies that are kind of crappy tasting, but they're Autobot shaped. I think those would sell like crazy.
If you made frosted sugar cookies with like a chibi tailgate face, that thing would just like in seconds be gone.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd probably have that crap end up on eBay too. Not that it's crap, but I'm just saying like you would, yeah. You
reminded me I need to get tailgate on my Christmas tree.
There you go. It just reminds me of when I was in college. This one girl brought her niece into the dorms to sell Girl Scout cookies door to door in the dorms. Like that Girl Scout made so much money. It's just like, oh, you want a hungry captive audience? Here you go. You can hit 5 doors in 10 minutes. I'm sorry, 10 doors in 5 minutes. So yeah, and this was early 2000s, so we were all still using cash versus cards and Venmo and whatnot.
It was a smart strategy. I like that.
It was. Yeah. But
anyway,
yeah, okay. So
as
Lucas,
I was saying, there's a podcast called Triple Takeover. It has that 6-0 guy that they were talking about on the show, but anyway, he interviewed them for that, and it was a really cool interview. So like if you're looking for more of that type of content, you can tune into that. Obviously not us, because I guess we could maybe try to reach out to BMAC and Mark or whatever on Instagram and see if we could get an interview, but we haven't done that yet.
I've really enjoyed the social media uptick that they've done, with Mark putting his things out there on Instagram and whatnot of his sort of breakdown of what went into the designs, really nice pictures, pretty soon after toys are announced, and the direction the live streams have gone. We don't have live streams that are half taken up by video game release announcements anymore. It's just mainly focused on toys. I'm enjoying how Hasbro's treating us. Yeah, except for the Star Wars, group, but whatever.
Oh, that's a fun question. Is anyone going to have the Earthspark video game under their Christmas tree this year?
There's an Earthspark video game?
There's an Earthspark video game. You play as Bumblebee and you drive around and punch Mandroid. Yep.
Was it well
it got
reviewed?
mid-lane. Sounds like it's probably fun and short.
As
and
to be
not
expected.
doesn't do anything new.
Well,
I read that it
I...
had
Oh, sorry.
decent use of transformation was all I was going to say. A lot of Transformers games don't really do the transformation that well, but apparently that one did. It's not like what was that? It was Battlegrounds, right? The Cyberverse game that has gone on, like, it's been on every one of the game subscription services. It's been like a nickel on several different cells on PSN. That game has been sold for so cheap because it was like a crappy XCOM. It was like a crappy simplified XCOM game, and I don't think people really got that into it. But this one seems like a more accessible, kid-friendly action game. Not Devastation. Not to the level of Devastation. But that could be under your Christmas tree if you wanted a Transformers themed video game to play for 5 minutes and then go play something better, probably.
Well, I can buy that to tide me over before the next Transformers video game that's coming out.
Never comes out, yeah.
2024, right? Is what they say.
2024 is going to have like 17 months in it, right?
Yeah.
That announcement said that they were building it from the ground up, right? It said they were switching engines. So I don't think that's an easy thing to do. I've never worked in game design. I'm a computer science minor from, 15 years ago. But
I'm really curious why you would decide to switch engines like mid-development. Is that common?
I would say no, probably. You know what you're going to build it on, and then you run into they had to run into something horrible. Like, oh wait, these things are supposed to transform and then still do gameplay mechanics? We didn't think about that. Something, I don't know the details. But yeah, the announcement said, no more announcements. We're done. We're done with announcements for now. Stop asking. You got some toys,
But if you're
though.
hungry for things for the game, you can pick up these toys.
Yep, here's some toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a flawed marketing strategy that's going to make a lot of people really, really upset, because when those reactivate toys went up for pre-order, we were still being told the game was coming soon and we were going to see new videos. And then after people started getting them in hand, and some people love them, some people think they're mediocre, whatever, that's when we got the announcement of, oh, sorry, the game's going to come eventually, 2024.
It's just so hard.
Oh, sorry, Ron. Phil.
Yeah, Lucas, to your point earlier about media, it is just so hard to time these things. This was something I think Hasbro probably figured, like, all right, we're going to have these toys to come out to coincide with the release of the game. We're going to have the media and the action figure both hitting the shelf at the same time. Nope.
I'm just curious if they're rebuilding.
I was going to say, it's going to be absolutely hilarious if they actually decide to redesign the characters after they made the toys.
I was going to say the same thing. Just because they're going for, they're rebuilding the system. They might even tweak the gameplay a little bit. What if the characters don't look like that anymore?
I mean, I don't know. It's a cool Bumblebee design. It's a cool Optimus design. I would get them regardless if they were tied to a game or not.
Yeah, I kind of think I ordered one of those sets. Maybe I don't remember. I think I did, but then I don't know. Sometimes I think I order things and then I realize I never actually cared, so I didn't order them.
Hasbro said mine are going to ship soon. Paul said mine will ship soon.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think you can just check that on go to your orders on Hasbro Pulse, and
Oh yeah, it's true.
But that's one more thing to think about.
oh, another thing I was gonna bring up. I know Ron brought this up at the beginning in the comments. Is do you guys have the like his tank for Soundwave or whatever? I know since Christian isn't on here, I'm sure he would love to hear your guys' thoughts on Transformers
Do you say
GI
the
Joe
his tank
crossovers.
for Soundwave, or do you mean this guy? You mean the Thunder Machine?
Ron mentioned the his tank, the HasLab, and
Yeah.
Phil has
Okay.
that. Yeah, I think Lucas's point is that with Christian
okay.
gone,
Sorry, I was thinking I was getting that
you
confused.
got your wires crossed.
Well, okay. Here's the thing: is I didn't even know there was a HasLab his tank because I could give two shits. So,
But it's a safe place and safe time to talk about it with Christian gone.
Yeah.
I have commentary on both, but I don't own either, so go for it.
That looks fun.
Well, here's Soundwave. He's cool. That's fancy and big.
So does that come with like replaceable batteries? I'm assuming. Is it like
You have to
rechargeable
put in your
or-
own. No, it's double A batteries. 3 double A
AA.
batteries that you put in the bottom of this thing, and then as you press the button, some of the backlights will turn on. But then also you can just.
When was the last time you put 3 AA batteries in a toy? I guess you've got small kids.
Yeah,
so
it's so cool.
that is pretty cool.
This is. I mean, I know we're talking like Transformers toy of the year soon, but like just in terms of toy of the year, this is it. This is it for me. This is the second year in a row where a GI Joe toy has been my favorite toy of the year.
What was your last year? What was it?
Serpentor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also very good. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Like
How much
my
did that run?
9-year-old son. What's that?
300.
It was 400.
Oof.
But it came with.
I thought it was 3.
I think it was like 390 or something. Hold
I
on.
sure thought
just,
it was 299. I thought I checked it like a week ago.
All right, I can check again, like how much I paid for it. But it came with 4 figures, of which I only really wanted one, so I parted ways with one of them already. That is made up for a significant chunk of the cost of that. So, yeah, I'm very, very pleased with that toy. I'm very, very pleased with everything it came with. I'm very, very pleased with it's an amazing toy. It's got everything that I would want from play value, interactivity, shelf presence, sculpt, design, features you can swap out. Like the only other thing that they maybe could have done was like had a sound feature, but even that just gets put in the speaker. So yeah, I'm really, really, really happy with it. So sorry, I'll stop gushing.
Very impressive.
Peter, did you get the HasLab his tank, or is that not the scale that you do?
I have one classified toy. And I only have that because I found it at Ollie's. The end. I can't start a new scale.
I thought you had one WWF toy.
No, I have multiple WWF toys.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
So,
The
Anna,
other
how is
G.I.
the
Joe thing
other
is cool
his
too.
tank?
Yeah, it's still not a hit tank, still a Thunder Machine, but
Oh, it's a Thunder Machine. Oh, I'm sorry.
I
See,
think it's great.
I don't know. I don't get pissed off by G.I. Joe. I just know nothing about it, so.
Understandable. I think it's really cool. Where's the kitty cat? Here's the kitty cat.
Oh yeah,
You know,
the blue and red Ravage. I forgot about him.
Yeah, most Transformers fans are going to be most interested in, the little blue MP Ravage. He's interesting. I had Rumble taking him for a walk, so because you can kind of get the the leash to clip onto his hand, so You can have your MP cassette box. Take Ravage for a walk. I enjoy it. These guys also, the MP Rumble and Frenzy also fit really well in the Thunder Machine mode. So you can have them drive it, which is just like a fun idea of having Rumble and Frenzy drive Soundwave. Or ride in as passengers or gunners or whatever. It's a really cool idea. You could actually cover it in the MP cassettes. It's like it's cool that they put an MP cassette in the set, which kind of gets you in that mindset, right? Like, oh, MP cassettes play with this thing, and then you get out your other ones and realize just how well they play with it. It's pretty cool.
You don't have MP cassettes if you started collecting in 2020 during the pandemic when you were flush with cash. So therefore, when you started buying your GI Joe Transformer crossover vehicles, you don't have the play ability things, so you have to sell everything and quit and be bitter.
That's true, because it's not like there's a commonly known KO of the MP cassette set that you can buy for $35 in most places or anything. No, that's not out there.
Doesn't exist.
But this is good, right? Like, I think that, we're not seeing the backlash. We got to the first two G.I. Joe Transformers ones. And I will say, both the Megatron His Tank and the Bumblebee All Striker they're flawed, right? They're like, for someone who really loved Human Alliance and has wanted more Transformers that play with little people figures that can ride in them and do things with them for years, those two figures were great. I love them. I think they're fun to play with. They're cool. They play with G.I. Joes and other small figures. That's neat. This one I would say is actually solidly good. Like, it's not great. It's not modern still. It still doesn't have ankle movement. It still doesn't have wrist turning. And, it still has a kibble-tastic design full of tires and chunks that you can't do anything with. But, if you compare it to what I like to compare it to, which is the Human Alliance line, it really is consistent with those toys that, you get a really kibbly robot with some play features and a nice clean vehicle. Peter would say too clean, but
I will say, of the three crossover vehicles for Joe that we've gotten recently, like you said, Anna, the Megatron and the Bumble as His Tank and Ostriker respectively, the Thunder Machine Soundwave is the best. It's the cleanest looking in both. Well, I mean, I guess all three of them have decent vehicle modes, but as far as the robot mode is concerned, Soundwave is far and away superior.
It's huge, right? It is. It's a really big toy. Here's Boulder Crash.
Does it
size comparison,
feel?
you know, everyone has Boulder Crash.
Yeah, wow, I didn't even know those were out yet. Does it feel kind of light and hollow like the Megatron toy did?
It is hollow in places, like, like the legs aren't super solid, but no, it does not feel light and hollow. It feels solid. It feels like your other Transformers toys.
Okay.
It feels like them. It doesn't look like them. It's kind of got that whole, like, I'm also an 80s G.I. Joe toy, but I'm also a now Transformers toy. I'm lost in the two worlds. It's kind of got that feel to it still, but the plastic feels good. It feels heavy enough. And, they bothered, right? Like, they put in signature things like, he has a working tape deck, even though he is a car, truck, vehicle, off-road doohickey. He still has a tape deck where you can put the one cassette he comes with or someone else if you want to. So I'm impressed. I think it's neat.
I really want to get that guy now.
If they wouldn't have put
it. Go ahead, Peter.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, if they wouldn't have put in the opening chest feature, people would have howled.
Yeah.
Been quite upset.
Especially, this thing is massive, right? So, like, when they make a small sound wave, like the reactivate sound wave doesn't have a playable chest feature, but he's also a deluxe size figure. But this is a humongous toy. This is bigger than MP Soundwave in a literal sense, even though he's more hollow and not as high of a quality of a figure. So if you're going to produce a sound wave that big that doesn't have the tape deck, yes, people are going to poop their pants and throw it at Hasbro, and they don't want that. So for sanitation reasons, he has his opening chest.
And like, it's $100. My hope is that I would find it for cheaper, but I'm not sure if I'll wait. But it is, I think, a good value because you get an MP cassette, you get 2 GI Joe 3 3/4 inch O-ring toys, and then you get a big honking sound wave. So yeah, you get a lot for that $100.
Yes, you get these guys, which I'm never opening because I just don't care. But
She's the enemy. Why would you want to open the enemy?
I like Sarada.
I'm kidding. It just says in big blocky letters, the enemy.
I know.
Yeah.
The classic packaging is fun. I think it's a cool idea, but it's like if it didn't come in the old style, like if it didn't come like this, and I didn't know that, you know, a G.I. Joe collector who wants this figure and is going to hopefully buy it for me someday when I decide to send it away would like to have it on the card, I would be playing with these two, right? If they were packaged normally, I would go ahead and play with them and have them mess with the different vehicles. But since they are packaged like this and I need to keep it this way for resale, I'm not going to ever play with those two, which is fine. I mean, they're O-ring figures made in the classic style. I've played with enough of those in my life. But anyway, I like it. I think it's cool. I hope they keep doing this. I hope this is a direction they keep doing. Like, I think, you know, unifying two of Hasbro's oldest brands, two brands that are both being very successful right now, and two brands that have been unified in comics forever and sharing universes and are now in a new shared universe in the comics. I just think this is something they should just keep doing. They're not going to run out of either Transformers characters or G.I. Joe vehicles to use.
No. I do find it ironic that you're talking about Soundwave being a new Transformer while it turns into an 80s truck car thing versus a new Soundwave that turns into an 80s tape deck.
What I meant by that is if you look at this head,
I know, I'm teasing.
Okay, this is a very modern toy head, right? Like a lot of this doesn't feel like a modern toy. A lot of this feels like a 2010 toy about. But that head is like what you would expect if they made a new giant Soundwave figure tomorrow. Like it would be like, oh yeah, that head's on it. Like this is, and I felt the same way with Megatron and Bumblebee. Those two have completely modern toy heads, and then the rest of them feel like Human Alliance era.
I think that's my favorite Megatron toy head ever is his tank Megatron head.
It's really good. It's so much better than the Siege and Earthrise heads. The Siege and Earthrise heads are poop. I don't like either of them, but his tank head is perfect, except it's humongous because that toy is humongous. You can't just pop it off and put it on your Earthrise Megatron. He would look goofy. He'd have big head med.
The only thing that would come close to maybe working on is Combiner Wars Megatron.
Yeah, that's a big toy. Still wouldn't work because it's still smaller. These toys are just so damn big. Even the Bumblebee is really large in bot mode, which they need to be, right? Like, O-ring G.I. Joe figures aren't small toys, so in order for humans to scale correctly, these need to be big toys. And it's probably why this never happened before, right?
How big were the Human Alliance toys? Were those 3 inches or 2.5?
They were about the size of mask figures, yeah. But they were way more posable. They had shoulders and elbows and knees and hips. They could do all sorts of flappy, floppy nonsense, and they had big, crazy bug eyes.
Yeah. So just like Shia LaBeouf in the movies, you can be like, whoa!
I love when figures get those eyes like that because it reminds me of reading Toy Fair back in the day, and they always put those clay eyes on their characters in the Toy Fair comics.
Oh.
Yes.
I
always think back to that.
I have some graphic novel standalone Twisted Toy Fair Theater books where they collected all of them. I've got them in a box somewhere.
Oh, those would be precious.
Guys.
The Mega figures, they probably did not survive.
No, the guys who made it went to go like make Robot Chicken, and like they're done very well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess do we have any other topics or things we want to bring up before we wrap tonight?
We're gonna do a 5-round
Popcorn?
ouch, my wallet.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can do it so well right now. There's been too much lately.
There's a package I got from Robbie Musso.
Who that?
He's a comic. Yeah, he's a comic artist. He did Spotlight Ultra Magnus and a bunch of package art for the brand that we were talking about.
Oh, J. Joe.
I'm sure.
Tremors.
Oh, okay. Mask.
No, not Mask.
Go.
He is a Mask. He is a Mask fan, and he's a big GoBots fan.
Oh, okay.
Would everyone like me to do a 2-hour review on Boulder Crash? I'll be happy
Hells
to.
yeah.
I got you covered.
There you
Yeah, let's
go.
do this.
I haven't played with Iguanas yet. I don't know what Boulder Crash is going to be like. I don't know what to expect.
The same texturing plastic that they used on this, they used on Death Source's Throne. I mean, that's very interesting. I'm a texture person with toys, so it's interesting to have the same textured rock plastic. Why wouldn't it be? It's both Hasbro making them.
Is it the same texture that they use on new McDonald's McNugget Buddies?
I definitely know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I know the texture of a McNugget.
Oh, okay.
No,
I got one of the McNugget Buddies today. I was kind of excited to get one of those.
I honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to go and pick a few of those up.
I didn't know they were coming. Are they like,
came
are they
out this week.
homages to the old ones?
Mhm.
Oh,
It's
I can
another
get
round
McDonald's again.
That's another round of McDonald's doing the like nostalgia adult Happy Meals.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see myself going for that. I didn't do the last one because I realized I had all the McChangeables, but kind of by accident. Are we out of steam?
So I was gonna mention book club this week is 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern on the TF Talk Discord, and they are gonna go over Transformers issues 11 and 12. Apparently, it involves Barricade or Nautica.
Action. Lots of action now. We're at the part of the comic where it picked up.
Oh, there you go. Is that when it picked up? Okay.
It is picking up there. Still not a body count, so many fans will be like, not enough death. Gotta move on.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thanks to everyone in the chat, and we will see everyone next week.